The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
So this would normally be the point where oh wait, there it is. The freaking Damn You Hollywood logo disappeared on me for a few minutes and now it's suddenly there. That is so weird.
That's Hooey Valley, Hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young.
Yeah, who are we kidding? That already started weird. Let's just get this under with. Hello and welcome to Damn You Hollywood. I am your host tonight, Alexis Hejna, apparently losing track of all my buttons. And tonight we are here to discuss the latest foray into the classic movie monsters. We are talking Renfield. And here is your host. Some call him the Dark One, others the Lord of Death. But let's be honest, he deserves only suffering. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Winfree.
I have gotten exactly what I have deserved for the majority of my life, and I am okay with that. Now, as Alexis mentioned, we are here talking Renfield tonight on Damn You Hollywood. We are down one Mark Radulich. He should be back next week to talk Evil Dead Rise. Of the two, I figured that would be the one he would find a way out of, but he went with this one. So, but he should be back next week for those of you who are fans of Mark. But joining us to discuss this particular... It's an entry into the splatstick genre. I'll call it splatstick as an homage.
Sure.
We have joining us first Jason Teasley from the... what is it you're from now, Second and Short?
Mosaic Media.
Mosaic Media.
Yeah, Mosaic Media.
Okay. We have Jason Teasley with us. Jason, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. Ready to eat some bugs and power up and power through this.
And back with us for another one of his occasional appearances, specifically in the horror genre, we have Dorian Price from Frike Pictures. How you doing, Dorian?
Not too bad. Glad to be here. This is definitely one of the most interesting films I've seen this year. So excited to tell you all about it.
It's up there. So before we get going, just very briefly, again, this kind of got added to the schedule. We all saw Nicolas Cage as Dracula and kind of went, you know what? All right, that's worth a trip to the theater. Let's just go around the table real fast and thought, before we get into the movie proper, just expectations, what may have drawn you to the film, that kind of stuff. Jason, let's start with you.
This was mentioned in our group chat. Nick Cage has become our basic generation Christopher Walken, and I could see it. He's just like, he is leaning all in and having so much fun with this. So an eccentric vampire played by Nick Cage, it had me hooked just from that tagline alone.
Well, I mean, I've already seen that movie, though. It was Vampire's Kiss. It was A Kiss of the Vampire, I forget, but...
Yeah, otherwise known as the movie that gave us, I'd say 90% of the Nicolas Cage memes that we know and love.
Well, the Nick Cage face comes from it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Zach, glad to have you in, man.
And we have, again, if you are watching live, be that Twitter, Twitch, Twitter technically, or YouTube or wherever, feel free to comment. We are happy to interact with the audience such as it exists. So don't be afraid to talk, share your opinions. As long as you have anything other than a long string of profanity, we're good. So, Alexis, again, apart from just like Nick Cage as Dracula, what did you have for thoughts coming into this?
Well, don't think we have to worry about the long strings of profanity. It's not like we're recording for the bleeding edge. But yeah, part of it was Nick Cage's Dracula. Admittedly, that was the first thing that was leaked. And I was just like, okay, color me intrigued. This is interesting. But then I just saw the trailer and I thought it looked like so much fun. We have discussed Nicholas Hoult several times on this network. And I think it was in the last review that we did with him, which was The Menu, where we talked about how he is so good at comedic roles. We've seen him in drama, we've seen him in comedy. He has excellent comedic timing. And just something about this role screamed he was going to have fun with it. So I was very, very intrigued.
All right, Dorian.
More from a behind the scenes situation. Obviously, the Universal's trying to reset their horror monsters has been a just slog through hell. In more ways than one. But there's been a lot of argument about how they were going to do Dracula next, because Invisible Man did pretty well for most people. Dracula's a big draw. And when it was announced that they were focusing on Renfield, that really grabbed me, because I'd worked backstage on a couple productions of Dracula, both here in Missouri and also in Las Vegas. And that character doesn't get a lot of love or attention. Like in the 1931 classic, he did, because they kind of made him the point of view of the audience for a good chunk of the movie. But for me, the main draw was I was raised on the Universal horror monsters, and I love them. So it was one of those. I win, lose or draw, I have to see this. Just because of the love of those classic characters.
All right, so this is the point where I warn you all I'm going to spoil the movie, or at least the plot. So
No, say it again.
How many people have been watching our show and don't know that we do spoilers?
I don't know, but
it's always that first new person who's like, "Hey,
and there's
I haven't seen it."
Just don't, I just don't. I don't care about spoilers personally, and I think spoiler culture is kind of a giant pain in the butt. But I don't feel it unfair to say I'm going to go through the plot in fairly decent detail here. So we open with there's a lot of narration from Renfield. We start with him. They have done some really fun little tricks to put him and Nicolas Cage back in the original Universal one, with putting Nick Cage in place of Bela Lugosi and again Nicholas Hoult as Renfield.
It is scary how well Nicolas Cage fits into the Bela Lugosi mold, if you will.
It really is. We flash forward to what they've been doing throughout the, decades and decades and decades since the original Dracula story. The big inciting incident here is there was an attack by a bunch of vampire hunters, because there always is. And this time, they nearly got him. They nearly got Dracula. They got him locked in a magic circle, and he couldn't get out, but Renfield saved him. A window got knocked open, and Dracula was nearly incinerated in the sunlight. And Renfield brought him to a decrepit hospital in New Orleans to recover, and he is out bringing him victims because he needs blood to recover. And Renfield has entered his emo phase for a little bit of time here. He is woe is me. He joins a therapy group, a support group for people in codependent relationships and trying to get out of, again, toxic situations. And he's looking for bad people that he can feed to Dracula, because if he only feeds him bad people, it's not quite as terrible a thing, isn't it?
That's the Dexter motif.
In theory. Well, and that, look, so if you want to become a lumberjack...
We do not talk about the new season.
That's not the new season. He's not a lumberjack in the new season. He was in lumberjack in season 8. That's how the season 8 ended. Yeah, it was season 8.
Look, that show went on like 4 seasons too long. We all know it.
At least 2.
But he follows on the advice, not the advice, but kind of pointed by one of his, fellow members of this group. He decides to go bother her abusive boyfriend. Finds him and a few of his flunkies having stolen a bunch of drugs from one of the notorious cartels here in New Orleans.
The Lobo family.
Because wolf logos are just cheap and easy to produce.
Do you think they were actually going on that whole vampires versus werewolves motif and trying desperately to be subtle about it?
Maybe.
Keyword being trying?
Yeah, I think they leaned into it pretty heavily.
Dorian, you're still muted.
I was waiting for on the wolf thing. I was waiting for a wolves, children of the night. So I'm like, really, it was right there.
It really was. They even could
Yeah.
have riffed on the Leslie Nielsen Dracula with
Dracula Dead
Nick
Loving.
with Nick Cage telling him to shut up.
Renfield, I don't care.
What a mess they make when he kills him. All the blood goes everywhere.
So Renfield, who derives some power from Dracula, he's been given a small portion. Whenever he consumes small creatures, usually insects or arachnids, his power intensifies. So he fights these three guys, and then a hitman shows up who's there to kill these poor schmucks in revenge for stealing all the drugs from the Lobos.
That was one of my favorite scenes. Wait, what was that bit about a hitman? Slice. It's like, crap.
Renfield then kills the hitman, and this whiny little such and such, who is the son of the matriarchal figure of the Lobos, he drives screaming away from Renfield, trying to escape. Renfield takes the dead bodies back to Dracula, and Dracula smacks him because how dare you bring me this drug-fueled blood? This tastes like crap. I will not have it. Bring me valuable blood.
Bring me innocent blood.
He just wants a bus full of cheerleaders.
Don't we all?
And tourists and nuns.
Nuns.
Yeah, I was like, oh, there's a third one. What was it?
It's always nuns.
Hey, that plays into Mark's movie that we're producing.
We don't talk about what you guys are trying to produce.
Ooh, now I want to know.
You really don't.
It's bare-chested nuns with guns versus Velocipaster.
Oh my God, I want to be part of this.
Jason, need I remind you, Dorian is an accomplished film director.
Hey, there we go. I mean, we've got our director. Me and Mark's got the screenplay.
Neither of you have the screenplay, and you both know it.
Yes, we do. It's a work in progress.
You barely have a treatment.
Well, I know we need to go back to talking about Renfield. Jason hit us later, and we will talk. The audience is probably going, we don't care. We don't care.
I'm very used to that response.
Renfield, I don't care.
Well, anyway, what was it? Tony?
Teddy Lobo, voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, running out of a car holding bricks of cocaine, screaming, "I have a prescription for this."
Yeah, it's Ben Schwartz who plays Teddy. He runs into a DUI stop where he finds Awkwafina, which inspires the appropriate amount of desire to get away from that location as quickly as possible. He's chased. He dissuades the cops from chasing him with bricks of cocaine. He literally throws them at their heads until they back off. But Awkwafina is undeterred. She chucks her baton at him, cracks him in the back of the head, and arrests him. She takes him into the police station where he is summarily released. Because apparently this version of New Orleans is the only major city in the world more corrupt than Gotham.
And both that problem.
It's true. I swear, Gotham City looks at this version of New Orleans and goes, "Well, at least we're not that."
Yeah.
So we're going with super corruption there, but
I was gonna say, where did they get these guys from? That other Nicolas Cage movie, Bad Lieutenant?
no, he was in the sequel. Harvey Keitel's in the original.
Oh, okay.
If you've never seen the original, it contains one of the great scenes in cinema history. A coked-up nude Harvey Keitel weeping.
But it's not better than a cocaine bear.
It's a little better than a cocaine bear.
We are not getting deterred on Cocaine Bear again.
There's a lot. In case you all didn't know, there's a lot of cocaine in this movie too, and some of it's even on screen.
I think most of it went up the editor's nose.
That would be the reference I was making. Yes.
Yeah.
But so Renfield is out now trying to find more innocent victims, more appropriate and worthy offerings. Awkwafina, through some detective work, finds out where is led to this restaurant where Renfield is around the same time, still looking for Renfield because he killed some of their guys. The Lobos show up. They're also here after, or no, they're just after Awkwafina at the moment because Teddy's mother is like, I've worked very hard to make us feared and respected, and you're a little bitch. So fix this.
Which he interprets as, okay, let's go have a show of power in which it's painfully obvious it's us, and let's go kill Awkwafina in front of a bunch of witnesses.
Including him taking off his mask in front of all the witnesses.
Teddy Lobo is an idiot.
He really is.
Well, what we find out later in the movie, it doesn't really factor in that much because, like we said, it's more corrupt than Gotham.
Yeah, but he's still an idiot.
Yeah. By the way, Jason, I thought you'd love Zachary's latest quote there on the screen.
Yes, I do love Zachary's latest quote, and that is why I consider Zachary a friend.
For the record, Zachary is of the opinion that nothing is better than Cocaine Bear.
Except
Which,
Velocipaster.
Yeah, that's the thing. Anyway, at the restaurant in question, the Lobos show up. They are all full of guns, but Awkwafina will not be cowed by the posturing of Teddy. She will not. She stands up bravely, and Renfield is inspired by this to be a little bit braver himself. And there's a big fight scene, and a lot of people die. And Renfield is told, no, you're a hero because you helped save a bunch of people. And like, yeah, it's true. I've only contributed to the murder of a lot more, but I can be a good person. And so everyone's down. Teddy escapes. He escapes a lot till the very end.
They seem to forget multiple times just how much blood he's lost and how injured he actually. I mean, he gets stabbed in the neck, but by Awkwafina with what is it, like a serving fork? Yeah. No, it's not the pen. It's a fork.
Yeah, he gets forked in the neck in this scene, and this great gout of blood, and then just he walks away.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry. Are we going with Jenna Ortega from Scream 6 level of inconsistency on the wounds?
We're up there. We're really up there.
It's pretty close.
For those of you who didn't see the Scream 6 review, go back to the archives. You can get that joke.
You really can.
Plug.
So Renfield decides to begin empowering himself. He's not going to be Dracula's servant anymore. He buys a new apartment. He goes to kind of set himself up in different ways. He's ready to be a better member of society. And
did he get all of his new clothes from Sears? Like
Macy's.
90s?
Yeah, it was
Macy's.
I wanted a little montage of him trying on clothes.
I think we can agree whether it was Macy's, JCPenney, or Sears. Regardless, it did take place in the 90s because those sweaters. Oh my god!
I liked that one. I like the primary sweater that he shows up at the police station in.
I did not know that Ray Charles had a fashion designing license, but there were some colors there that I'd never seen daylight.
Yeah, there's that. So Renfield and
feel attacked.
You can like it. It's just that's fine.
I actually will admit I did like the use of the pastels and the garish colors also in his new studio apartment as a way to kind of separate him from the darkness that he has been surrounded with for so many decades with Dracula. So it is garish and over the top, but you could tell it's garish and over the top for a reason. It doesn't feel like it feels like it fits, if that makes sense.
But Dracula's regaining power slowly, and the Lobos hack the NSA, because that's a thing you can do, and find out that his last known location was the decrepit church, so they go there looking for Renfield to exact revenge for all of their men that he killed. Everyone who goes there...
decrepit hospital.
Hospital, not hotel, you're correct.
Yeah.
And everyone who goes there, except for Teddy, is violently massacred by Dracula. And Dracula then uses all of their blood to regain some of his potency. He leaves Teddy unconscious for about a day and a half. He's just gone for a while.
Yeah, again, editor definitely did the leftover coke.
Yeah.
So Dracula goes to confront Renfield about what are you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while. What's up? And
where's my dinner?
And
Bitch, make me a sandwich.
Renfield tries very, very hard to stand up for himself, but Dracula's like, who put these ideas into your head? I give you a bit of my power, and he sees, oh, it's the support group, because he has a book from there that includes a stamp that's like property of this church. So he goes to that meeting, and Renfield goes there first and tries to get the people out, and the people aren't aware, and Dracula is then invited in by the well-meaning host, and Dracula proceeds to murder everyone in the room except for Renfield, who he leaves in a pitiable state. And then as soon as Dracula leaves, Awkwafina shows up because her investigation has led her to this location as well.
Can we just call her Dasani because she's a little bit lower quality of water?
I was going to go with
Not
Arrowhead, but okay.
Okay.
Best choice.
Figured you guys are just gonna start calling her Tap.
So great value.
Maybe. Kroger brand.
What's the Walmart generic brand? Isn't it
Great value.
Great value.
Great value shows up and sees Renfield amongst this pile of bodies and arrests him. But as they're leaving, they're attacked by a combined force of Lobos and police members because, again, this place is more corrupt than Gotham. And she still will not be deterred. She will not hand over Renfield to simply be murdered. They fight their way out. She gets shot in the process. They wind up back at Renfield's place where he explains to her his history, that he works for Dracula, all that good stuff.
Which she's taking with a grain of salt. Until her sister, who's an FBI agent, calls and actually gives evidence that says that the murder weapon that they traced to Renfield has been linked to missing person cases for like the past, what did you say, like 60 years?
Yep.
Now we can't gloss over one of the best parts of the movies and the snickerdoodles. The snickerdoodle.
He offers snickerdoodles, and she says, "Give me the one that doesn't look like crap."
Yeah.
And then
it's like,
yeah, and then she's like, "I'm with the killer. He offered me cookies. You didn't eat them, did you? No, of course not. You don't eat a killer's cookies.
Don't eat a strange man's cookies. No." But Renfield's address at the moment is a matter of public record. So the cops and the Lobos show up again, and Renfield breaks into a nearby apartment to devour this poor kid's ant colony so that he can power himself. He and Awkwafina fight their way out yet again through another giant gore-filled action sequence. And they are informed then that the Lobos have kidnapped Awkwafina's sister. So come and get her. This leads to our big final showdown at the Lobos compound. Sorry, Dracula has also decided to enthrall the Lobos. These people we have similar interests. I can take another bride, and the rest of you can become familiars, and this will start my plan for world domination.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to mention that Dracula has apparently decided to stop just, what was it? It's like, why should I have to conform to the world? The world can conform to me. And he's decided, it's like, okay, screw it. I'm going full comic book villain.
Yeah, there's a speech. There's a speech briefly between Renfield and Dracula where Renfield is trying to stick up for himself a little bit, and Dracula's like, no, you know what, I'm going to take all those self-affirmations and apply them to myself. And you're right, I do deserve better. I shouldn't just be going through this endless cycle of rising to power, orgy of blood and violence, only to be struck down by happenstance and vampire hunters, and for the cycle to repeat itself. I will rule the world. And he has a plan and a dartboard with blood instead of red string, but it's a planning board. He's got a vision board up.
And a little post-it note next to his name with Renfield's name on, so the world will be mine. And yours.
And yours.
That was so cute.
So, anyway, Awkwafina and Renfield arrive at the Lobo estate to find that all the Lobo soldiers have been turned into familiars. They all have power online with Renfield. Another big action set piece. And probably the only joke that really landed for me here, when Teddy and Renfield are fighting, and Teddy goes, "I'm clearly the yin to your yang," and Renfield goes, "I've met you maybe twice."
Yeah.
I will admit, Teddy gets one of the best lines when he comes in and goes, I think I recognize your face. It seems a little, he snorts a freaking centipede and goes, familiar.
That was a pretty good line.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there going, Sonic the Hedgehog just snorted a freaking centipede. What the hell is my reality?
It's the reality of fiction. Just to say non-reality. Awkwafina goes to confront Dracula, and Dracula, once he finds her, offers her help. He will revive her sister, who's been beaten near death because his blood has healing powers. He can help her if she will only agree to be one of his familiars and thralls. She's kind of willing to go along with it, but fakes him out, tries to open the doors so that sunlight can come in. It does, but they fight into a different location.
Credits Nicolas Cage. He gives a pretty good little speech trying to sway great value, as it were, over to his side. Like I said, there are some problems with the movie. The writing is not one of the problems. The characters get some really good lines and speeches.
Yeah, he does a pretty good job being the representing in that moment, like the genuine temptation that Dracula's supposed to represent.
Oh, we did leave out the fact that Beth Value's dad was also a cop that was killed in the line of duty, which is by the Lobos,
Yeah.
which is her driving force. But that's why she's not being deterred from, stopping going after them. It's the I will avenge my father.
I must avenge my father. Yeah.
It's that, and also her father was a good cop. He was not bought in by the Lobo, and everyone reminds it's like, yeah, your father was a really good cop. He was really loyal to the job, and she wants to live in his example.
Well, yeah, and the mob godmom is basically like, you're just as much of an idiot as your father, and we offered him the same amount of money, and he turned it down. That's why we killed him. It's just like, we didn't really need to know why you killed him. You're evil. He's a cop. That's kind of,
There is a little over explanation in various scenes.
So our final fight ends when Renfield and Dracula start squaring up. Renfield gets the better of Dracula for a few moments, long enough for great value bottled water to draw on the ground in cocaine a circle, and then, courtesy of Wiccan Tumblr, recite the ancient Latin incantation to create the appropriate circle of protection that traps Dracula within it. And then once Dracula is trapped within it, they proceed to bludgeon him, dismember him, feed him through a wood chipper, coat his body with acid and holy water, mix it with cement, which they then form into ice cubes. And then dump into the sewer system.
I like the explanation of that. It says we found so many things to defeat him, we just tried all of them.
And we're not even sure that this will actually work, but it should slow him down if nothing else.
Come back for Renfield 2.
Yes.
Electric Boogaloo.
Where Nicolas Cage is now doing he is stuck in the costume of the Thing from the first Fantastic Four movie, but it's cement, but it's gray instead of orange.
You never recite that movie ever again.
Now, we talking the Roger Corman one or the Tim Story one?
Either or, they're both lousy suits.
Look, it's
not so much.
None of it was as bad as the four-stick version, and we leave it at that.
For what it's worth, Nicolas Cage has actually said he would be open to doing another spin-off as Dracula. It's abundantly clear he had the time of his life making this.
He absolutely did. So, we close with Renfield looking to go forth and be a better member of society. Awkwafina being a decent cop and trying to clean up the city, and they kind of just go their separate ways, and potentially like, hey, if we make enough money, spoiler alert on this one, you won't, we might try to do this again.
Oh, and they revive everyone from the
he uses Dracula's magic blood, which actually makes a bit more sense than Khan's magic blood, thanks JJ. And he uses that to revive all the dead people from his support group because he liked them, even though some people, once they have been to the other side and have seen things, should not be brought back. They should be left to their eternal slumber.
The guy that played the leader of the support group was phenomenal. He made a lot of the movie for me, and the gag with the girl every time she got ready to share, Renfield interrupt her.
That was funny.
Can I get through one goddamn share?
Just one.
No.
I got a kick out. So we're gonna kick this around a little bit, but I got a kick out of the welcome mat being enough for Dracula to come into Renfield's house.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, then when he looks down at it, he's like, crap.
Should have seen that coming. Really should have seen that one
And
coming.
I was waiting for him to say that. Like sometimes, you don't need dialogue; you can do it visually, and that's better. But again, it's funny, or like as quippy as they tried to be in the movie, I was expecting him to look down and go, "400 years, should have seen that coming." Just a
Something
quick
like
flip
that.
side, just to let the audience know. Because I mean, there's a lot of people who aren't huge vampire fans, and you don't want to spend the entire movie leaning over to your friend who is going, "Why is that funny?"
Again,
Not a
there's some
moment we don't
really
need.
great moments in this. I love when Dracula's cornering Renfield in his apartment and he holds up the self-help book to try to defend himself like it's a freaking Bible. And Dracula's just like, what?
Hell are you doing?
So yeah, let's kind of kick this around: the good, the bad, the otherwise. Alexis, go ahead and get us started.
This isn't something I usually discuss when talking about the good, the bad, and the otherwise, but one of the things that really stood out to me in this movie was the cinematography and the set design. This is a very fun, very good looking movie. We have some glorious oversaturated colors in various scenes that you would
Boy,
think,
is that a rarity these days.
yeah, you would think
You guys
something like,
you've all seen the joke, right? Like, because some of the first teasers for Wicked have come out. So there's this guy on, I forget who did it, but I saw it on Twitter. It was like, the remastered version of the original Wizard of Oz looks great, and it's Dorothy before she opens the door. It's in its original, the original tones, and then she opens the door, and instead of being blasted with the color of Oz, everything is just like that real dark, desaturated shadow that you can barely see what's going on,
Like, oh God,
because
did Tim
that's
Burton come back
everything
to
these
direct this?
days.
but yeah, I love the again, you would think that the oversaturation of the colors in so many shots would be distracting, overused. It works. It really works. I love the set design, especially in the hospital with that throne of blood bags. Really, really cool design. So, and this fight choreography in this, again, very well done. Again, I think that there are some problems with the editing, and
Oh,
I think we
yeah.
can all agree that they probably should have thrown a few more bucks to the CGI department because a lot of that blood needed to be rendered for at least one more day. And yeah, the editing in this, okay, I'm just gonna say it. The editor is the only person who I think clearly didn't know what the hell they were doing. I know we made the joke, it's like this person sniffed all the excess cocaine off the set. I stand by that. The shots were crazy. How many times did they keep going back and forth and action shots between characters? It's like, oh my God, hold for 2 seconds. They ruined a very funny scene with Renfield downing the kid's ant farm because they had to keep jumping between him and Awkwafina, who was around the corner. It's like, you don't need that. Just have him run in and chuck down the ant farm, which was funny. Hell, they even that line's like, "You're a bad man, Mr. Renfield." Well, sometimes that comes in handy. That's a good scene. That's a good line, but the editing back and forth ruins it. But I did enjoy this movie, and there's just no other way to say it. You don't go to this movie for immersive acting. You don't go to it for a dramatic storyline. You go to this movie because you want to see Nicolas Cage chew the scenery with those giant fake teeth.
And boy, does he.
Cage has openly said the 3 roles he wanted to play before he kicks the bucket: Dracula, Superman, and Captain Nemo. He has gone on record about this multiple times.
Well, he could have done 2 of the 3 by now, but
technically he was the voice of Superman in Teen Titans Go to the Movie, so I don't know if that counts.
It might.
So
that's as close as he should get to that role in particular.
Yeah,
I mean,
no
he screen tested for Superman.
Look, the less said about Kevin Smith in general, the better. The less said about that movie in particular, the better.
But yeah, it's
how much money did they just burn without ever shooting a single, like,
Over $2 million.
Yeah, they like $2 million in pre-production before they even had a script or shot a single frame.
Yeah, because Burton was throwing out concept art left and right, and again, I'm a huge Burton fan. I know we're not talking about Tim Burton, but yeah, still, it's I would have been interested to see Nicolas Cage as Superman. It would have been kind of in the same vein as this movie of like, I'm not going for a hopeful Christopher Reeve level Superman. I'm going for, okay, this might as well happen. Go ahead,
I just still love
him as
Kevin
Captain
Smith's.
Nemo though. Like I could see Nick Cage as Captain Nemo if we want to do a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea thing. I would be down for that.
As long as we get somebody else singing Whale of a Tale.
Oh sure. I mean, not that you could do better than Kirk Douglas, but yeah.
Kirk Douglas and Thurl Ravenscroft.
If Nicolas Cage is going to play Captain Nemo, I want to hear him try to do a James Mason impression. I'm Nicolas Cage, and I'm Captain Nemo at this moment. I am, yes.
So, but yeah. Dorian, what was it we were joking about the other night that we said that it's like you get the feeling that Nicolas Cage essentially said, I'll give money to the production if you let me play Dracula?
Pretty much, yeah. It did feel like he just like showed up at Universal and was like, hey, I hear you're doing this Dracula movie. Here's like $6 million if you'll let me play Dracula. And they went, why not?
We can't do any worse.
You could probably do worse. Like, imagine Russell Brand as Dracula. There.
Oh my God, dude! Why would you put that in our heads?
I don't think that would be bad.
He said he didn't know if we could do worse, so I went bottom of the barrel.
That would be bad. Look, don't make me go to my default for bad casting choices in this respect.
Dane Cook.
Oh, Dan Cook would be the worst. But Dan Cook, is he still alive? Like, I don't think he counts anymore.
He's still alive.
Okay, but he's not actively working. Like, look, Miles Teller would be the worst.
Isn't he still doing stand-up?
He's trying to work. He's just not being hired.
And you should not break that. You should not break that trend. Now, Miles Teller would probably be the worst Dracula because you need actually some charisma. You need some personality, and he's just, dead-faced lizard brain.
Somebody still hasn't recovered from the Top Gun Maverick review.
Yeah, my issues with Teller are much deeper than that one.
Could you imagine Tom Cruise's Dracula? Like this kind of Dracula?
Sweet Jesus.
I actually can.
Like, hey, I get to do Lestat again.
Pretty much.
Well,
I've seen him do the vampire.
He destroyed the Universal's attempt at launching a franchise with the monsters
Mummy.
already. Yeah, what did I say in the network chat? That is the equivalent to that line from The Simpsons about the shortcut.
We shall never speak of the shortcut again.
We shall never speak of the 2010 Mummy again.
It's really bad.
I want to see Brendan Fraser come back and do another Mummy just because he deserves it.
I would, much as I would love him to, he can't do it physically at this point.
No, I mean, like have him like be not have him being the main focal point, just have him being in another Mummy movie.
Kind of like
have him as the Mummy.
Kind of like Gran Torino, where it's like he was all old and beat up. You could even go the old Universal style that they did with Edward Van Sloan, who was the original Van Helsing, and just kind of have a new set of heroes, and he's kind of backing them up, because he's done this before.
Even better.
I could get down with that.
Remake Abbott and Costello, meet Dracula, or meet the Mummy, and have Brendan Fraser as the Mummy.
Yeah, but who do you get as Abbott and Costello?
That would be about as full circle as you could get. He'd just be doing Encino Man again, pretty much.
There we go. We could do like, I don't know, who could we pitch?
Pauly Shore and Rob Schneider meet the Mummy.
There you go.
In the year of our Lord 2023.
John Leguizamo, because
no,
he's upset.
John Leguizamo plays the Mummy.
He's still upset about
Super Mario Brothers,
I'm sure
a Latino not playing an Italian.
He'll be upset about something else tomorrow to try and keep his name in the headlines.
So I will admit that as great as it was to see Nicolas Cage just, going. What was it, the joke we made with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie with Jim Carrey as Robotnik, where you just get the feeling the director just said, just go do your thing. Go do it.
Pretty much.
Just go do your thing. And he's like, just film
action.
It. Yeah. And everyone's
action.
like, what do you do? It's like, no, just let him have fun with it. I get the same thing with this.
Oh,
unfortunately, as much as I do love Nicholas Hoult, and I do like Awkwafina, I know you're not a fan of her, Robert, but I have seen her in some good stuff, and I love her voiceover work. They play fairly bland roles here. And again, I love them both, but I feel like any actor could have stepped in and taken over. I don't feel like
Yeah.
either of them were given a chance to really show off any charisma or
Well,
real charm or just massive talent.
I think Hoult was kind of. It's not that you couldn't have done better than Nicholas Hoult here. I think he was a very good choice. The problem with the character that Awkwafina plays is there's no character. Like,
She's not needed.
you could have
Yeah.
thrown any quasi-relevant comedian into that role, and you get the same movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that I really
Chris
like
Tucker
Nicholas.
Chris Tucker could have done this as a soft warm-up for Rush Hour 4.
The thing is that I really would have liked if the director had given either of them a chance to show more of their talent. Nicholas Hoult's a great actor, and he's done some really good stuff. And I would have loved to see him actually, just show his chops a little bit more. I can't help but feel that the director was more interested in getting the performance out of Nicolas Cage and, let's face it, Ben Schwartz than he was Hoult or Awkwafina.
See, I'm kind of on the opposite end. I actually liked them in this. I'm not a huge Awkwafina fan, and I think we talked about it. Her stand up is a lot better than what she portrays on film because she's not given that range that she does have in stand up because she's got some pretty good stand up bits. But I think I kind of liked her better in this than I did anything else that I've seen her in recently. So I think it's she was kind of pigeonholed into this role. She had some good lines but of course, like I said, she's only as good as her writers. But I think they played better than I got a better interaction from them and felt better about them being in the movie than I had any intentions to. I thought that they would kind of let me down. I was more focused on Nick Cage's Dracula, but I did see like the downside of it. I think that they did great with the material they were given, I guess is the easiest way to put it.
Okay. Anything else, Alexis?
I think I've hogged the podium for long enough. You guys go ahead.
Dorian?
This was, again, it was a fun movie. I kind of knew what we were getting by the final trailer. And again, I was going to go see it regardless. I'm going to bring up the issues I have with the movie first. I have no problem with Awkwafina. I think she's fun. My only issue with her in this movie is that I almost feel like she's not needed.
Yeah.
Like, the character really just kind of feels tacked on because we need a POV, but Renfield's our POV, Tonally, this movie felt all over the place. Again, I'll say what everybody else said. I really liked the set design. The colorization of the film was perfect, in my opinion. I did think it's funny, and I need to go back and check, but I think this is now the second Dracula film to be set in New Orleans, and I'm sorry to bring this memory back to all of your heads, but the one before this was Gerard Butler's Dracula 2000, which was also in Louisiana.
I actually give that movie credit for one thing and one thing only, and that was actually what I thought was a genuinely creative twist on Dracula's origins.
I like
That's
that.
up there. I actually like Butler's take on Dracula from an acting perspective. That movie is just so badly written.
Oh yeah, no, like he actually did fine as Dracula. I mean, so much better than he did as Phantom, but that's a whole other conversation.
And that's just because they asked him to sing, and he's good in a very, very narrow range with his vocals.
He's similar to Russell Crowe. He's actually good with more folk, rock, and that kind and stage singing. And when I say stage, I mean like a band concert stage, not a theatrical stage.
I did feel like this and I can't remember in the credits how many writers this had, but it looked like it had more than two. It kind of felt like each person came to the table with their own Renfield movie and storyline idea, and they couldn't decide on one, so the director just went, a goose, basically. And I was kind of expecting from what I was hearing that this was going to kind of be a weird rom-com, like I'm leaving my boyfriend, in this case Dracula. I'm trying to get away from him, but in the end of all things, they always come back together because if there's a Dracula, there must be a Renfield, yada yada yada. And I'm not going to sit here and rewrite the movie, but
for the record, the story was done by Robert Kirkman,
oh,
and the actual screenplay was someone whose name I do not recognize. Ryan Ridley, who I think is something of a collaborator with our director in this, which was in this case Chris McKay.
But yeah, the acting was great. Nicholas Hoult is a lot of fun. I really felt like whoever choreographed the fight scenes is obviously a huge Guy Ritchie fan, because I kept every time Renfield got into a fight, I kept expecting to hear the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes fight theme start playing in the background, and I wouldn't have been shocked if it had.
Not necessarily a bad thing. Those are pretty good fight scenes in and of themselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It just it was unexpected, but it wasn't a bad thing. I agree the blood needed to be rendered at least another day, or what would have been fun. I know it probably would have taken more money.
Maybe have real blood.
That's what fake blood. Is do it practically, which would have made
with a million squibs. Yeah.
Yeah, more visceral and in a way more funny. I'm not a huge fan of gore for gore's sake, but if it's done in a comedic way, I reference for case in point Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
I love that movie.
Oh yeah. And again, that's kind of the vibe I got off of this one, was kind of that Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Yeah. It's like it's like McDonald's. It's not good for you, and you know that. But you know what? It fills you up. I didn't walk away from the movie unhappy. Nick Cage and I have a weird relationship. I know I say that like we know each other, but we don't. Hi, Nick. But I never was, and I know I'm going to get probably a lot of crap in the comments for this, so calm down, comment section. I'm not done yet. I didn't ever bought him as Dracula. Now, that's a tough role to fill, because all of us have our own favorite Dracula. Some of us are Bela Lugosi. Like my personal favorite, and deal with it, is Gary Oldman. I really like his.
It's not the worst choice.
Mine's Leslie Nielsen.
That's again. And for those of you who go see Renfield, if you enjoy it at all, this is not a very well reviewed movie, but go back and watch Dracula Dead and Loving It. It's a lot of fun. One of the things, Cage has personality. He has a lot of charisma in his own way, but I never got Dracula out of him. The only time that I felt that I was actually looking at Count Dracula, the Prince of Darkness, was when he's all messed up and it's like, what are you bringing me? And I'm like,
you're feeding me trash.
Yeah, I was like, there's angry, pissed off Dracula.
Can we talk about how good that makeup was, by the way?
Oh yeah, it was so good.
Great prosthetics.
Again, something I don't think any of us have brought up yet, and thank you, Alexis, for dinging that, because I was going to in just a moment. The makeup on this is spectacular across the board. There's only a few moments that it's not just top notch. The makeup artists kicked their asses to get this done, and they did a great job. But yeah, overall, again, I'd say go see it. Obviously make your own opinion, because you're gonna do that anyways. But it's a lot of fun. It's just, I guess my main gripe was Cage as Dracula, because I just never bought it, and maybe that's just on me.
Jason.
So I mean, a lot of things that's already been said, but I think some of the supporting characters deserve a lot of credit. The angry black lieutenant is a trope, and it was phenomenal in this. And some the leader of the I was talking about the leader of the group, the lady, the girl that can't get one goddamn share out of it. Some of these supporting actors are just kind of background actors, brought a lot to the movie that I really enjoyed. I took my wife to see it. She loved it. She thought this was one of the best movies she's seen all year. And sometimes I let her out of the house, so that's not a high bar to clear. But this movie was exactly what it was. It was a nice, tight 90 minutes. 93 minutes, I think, is what it ran. It was a nice, tight movie. The editing, like we've said, was
Michael
was very
Bay-esque.
Arriba, ándale, ándale.
Yeah, I mean the cuts, the quick cuts and everything took me out of it a little bit.
Anyone else think that the narration was added at the last minute?
Not last minute, but I don't think it was there originally.
I think it was right before post. It was very late in the game.
It definitely felt like the first test screen audience felt something was missing, and that's kind of what they landed on. Was we don't want to reshoot a ton of this, so having him do narration to kind of go over, or a few spots in particular, I think it was added. There's some of them that make sense to be there from the beginning, but there's others that feels like it was definitely added later on in the process.
I was a little ticked off that they added it over one of my favorite scenes from the trailer when the nuns run up to him after he saves them at the restaurant and they go, "God bless you." And he goes, "Oh, well, God bless you, nuns." Just in that very cute, very high-pitched manner. I was like, why did you have to cover that up?
And yeah, and the fight scenes, I can't love the fight scenes enough. The ridiculous gore in them, the practical killings of like throwing a leg through someone
Arm, but yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
And it was then like riding a body down 3 stories and waving at Awkwafina as he does it to basically stomp someone into the courtyard there. It was just way over the top. It was fun. The fight scenes were very fun. Probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. And like I said, I mean, I like Nick Cage. I thought he was very over the top, eccentric, and exactly what I expected. I got just like insane Nick Cage on like they said be Nick Cage, extra Nick Cage, and that's what we got. And like I said, it was a fun popcorn movie. I didn't go in thinking this was going to be Oscar bait, but I went in just to relax. I had had a bad day at work, and I went to see this, and it basically did exactly what I want movies to do: take me out of my funk for a good 93 minutes, put me in a good mood, and just totally turn my day around. And let me enjoy the movies again. This is one of those movies I see Hollywood getting the uptick of people going to enjoy movies again, which we've slogged through a lot of stuff that has either had some kind of agenda pushed or, somebody getting upset. There's nothing that you could get upset about this movie. It's exactly what it needs to be. Yes, did it do the numbers that anybody expected? Not in the least.
We're going to be for the record, everybody, when we get to the money, we're talking several bombs this week.
And we're going to talk about one movie where it's like, how in the hell did that actually do as well as it did?
Yeah, but it was exactly what it needed to be. I mean, when you go to a movie, you want to transform into a different place, just like when you're reading a good book. And that's where we need to get back with our movies. This took me back to that cinema experience that I know and love.
Actually, if I can piggyback on that, Jason, I think it does say something.
You can't.
Denied.
You can.
I'm the one holding the button, so.
Oh, dang. Oh, dang.
Alexis is on the ones and twos in this case. So
yeah, I'd like to remind you, Mark couldn't make it tonight, so I'm in charge. So, yeah.
Mark, if you're out there listening,
go ahead. Keep it up. I'll sign you up for the last voyage of the Decanter.
Demeter.
Yeah.
Demeter.
So
you're gonna threaten me. Get it right.
So we may need a dancer or something to watch that movie. So.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not watching that because Pat's already volunteered for it, so it's officially on my no-fly list.
I'm
watching it. don't know if
How
I'm
can you
reviewing
take
it.
how can you take a concept that should be that rock solid and make it look that rock stupid?
Okay, so going back to what Jason said, you're right. We have had to slosh through a lot of movies that just feel like they're pushing an agenda. I hate using the phrase pushing an agenda, but it does. Or they're
It's an overused phrase, but with what we review in particular, it's relevant more. It's accurate more often than not.
Yeah.
it feels like so much of what we've had to review and watch, especially in the last year, has been trying so hard to be something that it's not, and has been pushing things that we don't care about. And this month, we have
They're
gotten
all
3.
2.5 hours long.
Oh, God, yeah. I'm never sitting through Tar again as long as I live.
Oof, that was rough.
That was rough. I love you, Kate Blanchett, but no, you
Bad.
one and done with you, honey. This month, we've had 3 movies that we have reviewed, and we've all said these were fun movies. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, Super Mario Brothers, and now Renfield. And yeah, we talked for who knows how long on Super Mario Brothers and all the crap that the critics have been throwing at it, so we're not going to go back into that. If you want to listen to us analyze why that one woman who sounds like Jeff Goldblum in reverse and gave us all seizures with her voice, then you can go check out our review from last week, plug. But I think it actually says something that this month we are finally getting movies that's like, you know what? These are fun. These are fun movies. This is making us enjoy going to the theater again. And this is not something we have had in ages. And it's been especially depressing after the year that we got from Marvel and Disney. And again, we have talked about that ad nauseum on this show through various podcasts. And I really think it says something that these 3 movies have come out and it's like, yay, we had fun. It's like, yeah, Renfield isn't going to be Oscar bait or anything, but I think all 4 of us left smiling. I think we all 4 of us had a good
Oh, yeah.
I got the chance to take my mentor to go see it, who had played Renfield. I was going to try to get him on the show, but unfortunately he had a prior engagement, just kind of talk about the character a little more. But yeah, we walked out of it, laughing, quoting a few lines, But yeah, and very quickly, Alexis, to piggyback off what you said, I agree that we need more fun movies that aren't, kid movies. Because it seems like these days, hell, even kids movies, are almost trying to push an agenda in many cases.
We
The only
saw
thing-
Strange World.
Well, oh God.
Red.
Right. In my opinion, as a huge horror fan, what I'd like to see Universal do is kind of leapfrog like this in future. Like, do a fun horror comedy with a character or one of the classic monster side characters, and then do a serious scary one as well. In the vein of like Invisible Man, which I don't know if anyone else here enjoyed that. I really did.
we love. Yeah, didn't we
Yeah,
give
it
a
was-
positive review to The Invisible Man?
Yeah, it was pretty solid. I remember listening to it when I was in Memphis.
My gripe was with the ending.
Yeah, I can give you that.
Yeah.
I loved a lot of the setup. I loved a lot of the tension, but the fact that their end point was, oh no. In fact, it felt like a late revision to the story to have this character whose presence was more impactful than his action. Like the memory of him was more impactful than his presence, to then show up just so Elizabeth Moss can violently murder him on screen. It came out. I thought the story was actually a lot stronger with, again, like his brother being the obsessive one. He was the abusive one and he drove Elizabeth Moss a little bit crazy, but having it be not who you expected, I thought was a much stronger ending than, no, it was him all along and now we get our catharsis here. It was jarring and it did not feel in keeping with the rest of the movie.
It was me, Austin.
I wish they'd gone back kind of more to the original ending of either the book or the original Claude Rains classic Invisible Man. Kind of that, at his end, he's somewhat remorseful, even though he's insane, But again, not the movie we're talking about.
Yeah.
And a hush fell over the crowd.
So I think we interrupted you, Alexis, on that one.
No, I was done talking, and then Dorian piggybacked off of me, and then we started talking The Invisible Man, and then I think we just kind of forgot what we were all talking. Again, I was just talking about how nice it is to finally be going back to the theater and enjoying movies just for fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fully agree.
So let me give you my 2 cents here really quickly. The editing for this thing is really bad. It's like it's the biggest detriment to the whole film is the way it's edited and put together.
If you hadn't caught that from how many times we've brought it up so far.
There's so many sequences that are either chopped way too much or are inserted in ways that make the chronology of what's going on harder to follow than it needs to be. And it's a real kind of downer experience for the film. I'll echo some of the positives about the fight scenes. I'm not too surprised that those are some of the better reviewed things. I get the sense those were done by second unit. And given that Chris McKay's filmography to this point is like the Lego movies, it's not terribly surprising that someone at a different director with a better feel for how these things work physically is the stuff that we recall more fondly. So I think there's a real lack of directorial vision here, and I think that's kind of why the tone falls all over the place. This is a director who's still kind of feeling stuff out, and that's fine. Like, I don't begrudge anyone their growing experience. But this movie, you mentioned Tucker and Dale versus Evil. This needed a bit more of that. This desperately wanted to be a Sam Raimi film and just falls a little bit short. The lack of practical effects in various places hurts this a lot. Like, mix up fake blood and throw it on your actors. This isn't that hard.
Yeah.
And the fact that so much of it is CGI'd and CGI'd positioning and rendering makes it look like it should be hitting them, but it doesn't. It creates dissonance and it takes people out of the film.
You're not wrong. There were a couple of scenes where somebody got exploded by vampire power, and I'm like, shouldn't the other guy's shirt be covered in blood?
Well, again, except that you get poor Nicholas Hoult, you put him in front of the fire hose, and you say, "This is for God and country," and then you blast him with the fake blood.
You go Steven Weber and Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Right. How much blood could she have left? Everything in life is location.
How many times have we brought up that freaking movie? Oh my God.
To that point, I think the other thing that this movie's missing, it doesn't lean hard enough into its premise. It spends way too much time to the extent that this movie navel gazes, it's about toxic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little out of place. It's okay for that to be there, and it's okay for that to be the subtext of what's going on. Making it super text as often as they did, it just kind of drags things down.
Well, they should have leaned into it hard if they were going to have it, and I don't.
Yeah,
feel like hard enough.
The fact that if you wanted to lean harder into it, okay. I mean, Nicholas Hoult and Dracula share what? 3 scenes before the finale? He goes back to the hospital. He's accosted in his apartment, and then he murders the troop, the support group. And they never share another scene until we get to the end. If you want to talk about their relationship being abusive and toxic and whatnot, we need more of their relationship on screen and less of him running around talking about nuns and Awkwafina lamenting her dead father and why she has a broken relationship with her sister, who's on screen for, again, all of 5 minutes.
Right. And
you didn't care about Awkwafina's relationship with her sister.
Yeah.
And I think they pushed the father narrative too much to try to make you care and try to justify why she's going so hard. You could have been she's just a good cop trying to clean up her city.
We don't need to know what happened to make Jim Gordon the last good cop in Gotham.
We just know he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a real lack of knowing what about this story needed to be expounded upon and what we were okay with leaving kind of where it was. And now I think that's my other kind of major criticism. Nicholas Hoult should never take another dramatic role in his life. He's not a terribly good dramatic actor. I mean, he's passable, but I think back to his time as Beast, And then I compare him to this. I'm like, why were you trying so hard to be such a serious actor when you're so much better at the comedic stuff? I mean, we talked about this when we reviewed The Menu. Like, he's so good at this style of comedy that it seems almost a shame that he spent so much time trying to be serious. Like, you're not that good at it. You're really good at this.
Well, even like talk about Beast in the 90s cartoon show, which I recommend to anybody who's an X-Men fan who hasn't seen it yet. Beast is a little bit comedic. I mean, he's overly intelligent, but it comes off more funny than it does deep, thoughtful moments, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't take himself. He's smart enough not to take himself too serious.
Exactly. But yeah, I agree with you. This movie, as much as I, kind of gave Nick Cage a little crap as Dracula, he's having fun, and I'm glad he's having fun. I mean, I'd go see it again. I'll probably buy it. But we needed more Dracula. It's like Nick Cage is kind of the selling point of this. Give us more of that. You know, it's not like he's doing anything else, other than like a billion indie movies.
Now he's got to get back all that money he lost somehow.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's mostly crawled out of the IRS hole at this point. Yeah, I could have used a couple of scenes that were just like over the top, almost comedic level of gore in the wake of a Dracula attack. You know, the state everyone was left in after he massacres the support group it's almost like made for television level of sanitized. Like, you get spurts of blood, but there's nothing like really visceral about it. It's a little bit anemic, all things considered. So
I did like the way they shot it, though, that the whole thing happens before Renfield hits the ground.
That was a nice touch. I just we're gonna lean into this, so let's lean into this. This movie, let me phrase it like this. It wouldn't be that hard to pare this down to a PG-13, actually, believe it or not. Like, if we're gonna lean into this thing, they really should have leaned a little harder to make it into what the R rating will allow. Like, there's too much gore at the moment for it to be there, but if you look at the story, it's not that hard to clean up the language or to kind of pare down a few of the fight scenes, and you could edit this for TV even relatively easily. And again, it's just I wanted so much more out of this than I got, and I still had I had a pretty good time at this. So I'm not sitting here like jumping up and down on it. It just wasn't quite what I expected, and I still had a pretty good time, but ultimately I think there was a lot left on the table here for one reason or another. So
I think it's fair to say that the people who are going to enjoy this movie more than anyone else are fans of the Dracula lore, fans of vampire and horror movies in general. Anyone else really hoping that we get a director's cut? Like I said, just
maybe.
Well, if I'm going with it, that means we got a better editor.
I'll get
McKay cut.
The McKay cut.
I'll give you a maybe on that one. I'll give you a maybe.
All right. Well, is there anything else anyone else wanted to bring? Anyone else that anyone? Wow, I can't talk. Is there
Last
anything?
round.
Take 3.
Is there anything else that anyone else wanted to bring up before we start moving on to the money and the promos and all that kind of stuff like that there?
I have a quick question for everybody here, and obviously our audience out there. Comment in. Again, we talked about Invisible Man, and we also talked about the previous attempts at kind of rebooting the Universal franchise. As a group, who's interested, or who is interested, and do you want the Universal monster movie kind of reboots, retellings to continue?
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, but this doesn't need to be a shared universe.
No, and I've fought against that since they announced the Dark Universe. I mean, just personally, but
again, let us never speak of the shortcut again.
Right. What would everybody's next monsters they should tackle be?
Wolfman.
Yeah. Actually, Lee Whannell's working on that with Ryan Gosling, which I have a little bit of a problem with because I'm like, Ryan Gosling has made a career being the bad boy, And he's got the big soulful eyes, and I'm like, we've done that werewolf movie. We did it with Lon Chaney. We kind of did it with Benicio del Toro, where it's like, I'm so sad because I'm cursed.
Don't bring up the Benicio del Toro Wolfman. Whoever decided to get rid of Rick Baker and just go full CGI deserves to be shot.
I really wanted to like that movie. Like,
Yeah.
there's some really nice bits of gore. Benicio del Toro's a fabulous actor. Anthony Hopkins was really good until they had him go full mustache twirly right at the end.
Yeah.
But the way he and Del Toro played off of each other was really good. I actually
even like Hugo Weaving as the
he was real.
Yeah,
no, he was good in that role. Like, as this really straight laced, really ignoring the supernatural, kind of trying to just sort out what's going on. Like, he was really good. Like, there were some really good pieces in place for that movie that unfortunately just didn't bear fruit at the end of the day. I'd be curious to see what we could get out of a good. Who would I want to do this?
I'm fine with Leigh Whannell.
No, Whannell as Wolfman is fine, because I want to see. I think we're due another Frankenstein adaptation, a serious one.
I want another Frankenstein adaptation.
And
Kenneth Branagh's version is still one of my absolute favorite adaptations.
It's a shame. It's a shame that movie has the reputation it does, because it's not bad, but the people went into it expecting the number of people who don't actually know the novel is kind of startling. And if you don't know the novel, that movie really comes out of left field.
Read the novel in high school. I actually shot a comedic remake of it for a final project, in which I had my neighborhood friends play the characters, and they completely forgot their lines and they ad-libbed the whole damn thing.
Excellent.
We got an A.
Hey, that's all it counts. And actually, Jason, real quick, you were talking about the werewolf or the Wolfman. I'd actually love to see Margot Robbie play the werewolf.
I see. No, we don't speak of her. That is because she can't draw. She can't draw if you gave her stick figures.
Dorian, Dorian, this is a topic that has been brought up many times in the network chat.
We've talked about Margot Robbie a lot, and I can distill the points down to the following. She's a very capable actress who is constantly put in positions that she should not be in. She's not actually a draw as an actress. Her name attached to something doesn't draw money. Not the way people think it should. So they stick her in something like Babylon, where she can act, and then think Margot Robbie's name attached to this will help draw a crowd. So let's spend $200 million on this thing and lose our shirts in the process. And she's just not a very big presence. She's a very good actor.
We have to wait till she does mine and Mark's remake of White Mama, Black Mama, before we can put her back on the map.
Dorian, please don't direct that one.
Well, it was her. It's her and Zaza Beetz. We're remaking. Yeah, we're remaking.
Mark and Jason want to remake White Mama, Black Mama with Margot Robbie and Zazie Beetz.
Yes, and we've tossed around the idea. That's going to be our double feature. We're going to do it Grindhouse style with Velocipaster versus big booty nuns with guns or something. I forgot what the working title is.
Oh, for God's sake!
For the
you
record,
need to memorize the title before you do a pitch, man.
Weren't you guys doing Nude Nuns with Big Guns versus Velocipaster? Because that's the other crappy movie that you were referencing.
Well, yeah, we're still working some kinks out. All right,
I'm sure you are.
By
mostly
kinks,
Marks.
you're trying to remember what you said less than an hour ago.
No. We're working kinks out, and it's mostly Marks. Anyway,
it's all in preview.
But
it works for George Lucas.
But yeah, I would want to see. I want to see somebody like, and I'm going to hate myself for saying this. Somebody like a Momoa or a Rock to step into a Wolfman role. Just that big hulking individual that has a on-screen presence to before the transformation to be like an aristocrat, just having kind of be this high-powered aristocrat, but did have the other side, kind of I wouldn't mind seeing a good Jekyll and Hyde movie. I think that was something that would, if you could get the right actor to play a deranged person that could also hold it together as a come off as a well-spoken person and just play the duality of the role, I think that would be great. I love the Universal universe. So I mean, there's a lot of properties out there and a lot of directions you could go with it. So
Actually, Jason, I got an idea with that Jekyll and Hyde movie, because you're right. We are vastly overdue for a decent
Right.
Jekyll and Hyde
Yes.
adaptation.
One could argue we've never had one.
I'm assuming the David Hasselhoff version is never going to see the light of day with anyone here.
Oh, I own it. I love it.
Was not even aware it existed.
was not either.
It's a beautiful version. Actually, if you want a good Jekyll and Hyde, go back to I believe it's 60s or 70s. There's a Hammer version that was actually pretty good.
Okay.
See, when I was a kid, I saw a musical version, and I have never been able to track any version of this down. I've never been able to find any, evidence that this exists. But I saw it, and it exists. It was a musical of Jekyll and Hyde. And I remember seeing it because it was at Starlight Theater here in Kansas City, and the guy who was playing Jekyll did the voice of Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. I remember that voice. But here's the thing. He didn't play Hyde. They had someone else play Hyde, who apparently actually did Gaston on Broadway as Beauty and the Beast, so they sounded similar. And you had these great scenes where Jekyll is feeling the temptation, and you have the actor playing Hyde literally behind him, speaking over his shoulder, and you have them arguing at each other, and you have them fighting each other.
That would be a pretty cool concept, actually.
Yeah, it was so good, and it kills me that we have never seen anything like that, and that's what I want.
Who would you pitch as the actors, though?
Hang on, there's just you couldn't recast this because one of the actors has passed on at this point. But
necromancy.
No. Just hang on. There's a similar vibe to that interaction. If anyone saw the Kevin Costner movie, Mr. Brooks.
Yes, I love that movie.
Where William Hurt is his dark half.
Oh, wait, you're actually admitting you like the Dane Cook movie?
He features in it. It is not his movie.
Like 15 minutes. And then he gets killed, which I think everyone loved that scene.
And he pees himself.
Yeah. Actually, that's actually when I met Kevin Costner, when he was promoting that movie.
So, but you getting something with that vibe. And again, if you wanted to go, Costner's a bit too over the hill at this point, but you need someone with that kind of.
Well, Jekyll. Go ahead, sorry.
You would need someone who can turn on a dime, and that's a little bit harder to come by these days, actually, in terms of.
I'll tell you somebody that you're going to laugh at this, but I tell you, because I think of one of his earlier movies, McConaughey.
If it was 5 years ago,
or 10,
I'd say yes.
Yeah,
5-10 years ago, yeah.
Frailty is one of my favorite movies, and
Frailty's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that kind of comes out of left field. That it was one of the movies that actually caught me by surprise. I didn't figure it out.
That one will. If you don't know what's coming, that one will come out of left field for you. You can see McConaughey go sinister too. If anyone has seen Mud, he's really he's really dark in that.
There's got to be some younger actors that we're not familiar with yet who could definitely pull something like that off.
Well, also remember, if you go back to the original novel, Robert Louis Stevenson's Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dr. Henry Jekyll is explained as a early 50s, portly, well-fed guy. So getting an older actor to play Dr. Henry Jekyll is not outside the realm of possibility. It's just finding a younger Hyde, or honestly, what I was going to say, the reason I brought up Robbie as the werewolf, is one of the things I think Universal needs to do, since we're trying new things, is we need to introduce more women, more girls as classic monsters that don't necessarily have to be tied to a gender.
You're partially right. I mean, what was it in the original? Dracula's daughter, Bride of Frankenstein. That was kind of it.
Right, and nobody remembers Dracula's daughter unless, again, you're like hardcore horror fan.
I've got an idea.
All right.
What if you did Jekyll and Hyde as a male-female counterpart?
They did
that
that as a
exists.
comedy in the 90s.
Yeah,
No, I'm talking about a really dark, like
You really could.
You could play also with like if Hyde was a female, you could play with the idea of Dr. Henry Jekyll. It has issues with his gender, but he's been so repressed that when Hyde
He could be seriously gender dysphoric,
Yeah.
And it would almost be interesting if you want to go in a different direction. I actually jotted down some notes about this when I got bored and decided to rewrite all the Universal classics. Was that Hyde? Jekyll is gender dysphoric, and when Hyde comes out, she goes out and parties and all this stuff. But there's enough evidence of what she's done that Jekyll becomes the killer who has to go out and kill all the people that she interacted with, so that no one finds out who he is. So you just flip the script.
I've got an actor.
All ears.
Will Poulter. That was when
That's the kid who's going to play Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yes. He's playing Adam Warlock. He was in We Are the Millers, and he was in Maze Runner. I think he could pull it off.
Shit, actually, he would be good.
Because he's got that. Because, I mean, if you think back to Maze Runner, he has that really kind of that turn on the dime. Or another kid, I think, was honestly played the kid that played the Joker in Gotham. That was on Shameless. I think he would be
something.
Yeah, I think he would be a great Jekyll and Hyde actor to do with. Or, I mean, you could get both of them together because they look enough alike to kind of play off of each other.
I mean, again, if you wanted to go older, sadly, like, I know who would have been perfect, but again, he's not here anymore. But James Gandolfini would have been the ideal Jekyll and Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting.
Just go all out and make it Denzel. Make everything Denzel.
All right, Hollywood, are you listening to us? We're going to put this on TikTok, okay? This is what we want.
We've just given away solid gold here, just throwing it out there.
Do you think Tom Holland could pull it off?
Maybe in another 5 years. I think he's a little too young looking.
I did see The Devil All the Time, so I know he can do a little darker, but
I'm telling you, I think, and I'm going to say this
he needs some crow's feet, man. Before you go too far on Holland, like he's got to look a little older.
I'll tell you this right now, and it's simply because of I can't remember the show. I mentioned it to you, Robert, simply because it deals with Latter-day Saints. Is Andrew Garfield? Andrew Garfield.
That's a thought.
That series, it was on Amazon.
What you're referencing is Under the Banner of Heaven, which is I'm not going into the technical issues of the show itself. Speaking purely about the accuracy, or rather the utter catastrophic lack of accuracy that went into that show. For crying out loud, people, you couldn't even get the date of the Mountain Meadows massacre right. This is a historical event, and you listed it erroneously. Shame on you.
But his dramatic performance in that really surprised me.
Okay.
Play that.
If you want to do this a little bit more comedic, here's what you do. You get Tom Holland as Jekyll, and then you have two different Hydes. One's Tobey Maguire, one's Andrew Garfield, and we just redo Spider-Man.
Ooh, actually, how about this? Since we were talking about doing an adaptation of Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's
Andrew Garfield as Dr. Frankenstein.
You could do that.
And Jason, Robert, you guys are going to hate me, so I'm preparing to jump into the trenches. Tom Hardy is the monster.
I wouldn't hate that.
Oh, Tom Hardy's awesome. Tom Hardy can be the monster.
Oh, thank God! I was about ready to grab Eddie and jump in the foxhole.
Dude, we love Tom Hardy here.
I was like, why would I hate Tom Hardy as playing a big hulking monster? I don't.
Robert De Niro did so well, and it's I'm not comparing Hardy to De Niro, but they both have the chops to go deep on characters. So
I also Hardy's one of those guys who I also have faith in to act through a prosthetic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like there's a lot of guys right now, and I've talked about this before when we reviewed other movies. There's a lot of actors who don't know how to act within a lot of makeup. And I mean, to loosely bring this back to Renfield, Nicolas Cage did not have a problem with it. Like they made that guy look all kinds of messed up, and he still knew, because he's a professional, how to act through the makeup, how to make it work for him. And there's a lot of younger actors out there right now who struggle with that, and to the point of like putting Tom Hardy in the creature makeup. No, I think that would work fine. Like he could make that work.
Oh,
That's-
I'm
I
yeah.
was just remembering how many times we made fun of
Stop.
Tom. I was just remembering how many times we made fun of Tom Hardy because of the Venom movies, and I was like, please don't hate
Well,
me, guys.
Well, I mean, if
I
you
make fun
put-
of those movies. It's not just
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, I mean, if you took Tom Hardy like back Warrior Tom Hardy or Lawless Tom Hardy, yeah, I'd be definitely first in line for a ticket.
But we also know that Tom Hardy can act opposite himself. He might
Yeah.
also be the right guy for Jekyll and Hyde, because if you've seen
That wouldn't be a bad
Legend,
one.
Ooh, that would be good.
if you've seen Legend, he can act opposite himself just fine.
That I don't think that would be a bad take on it.
All right, we've been at this for almost 90 minutes. We should probably move on to the money. So
Yeah, no kidding. Jason, though, you said you got to bounce, though.
Yeah,
you
I'm-
want to go ahead and give us a shout out on where we can find you next?
You can find me on all platforms: Mosaic MC, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Definitely look us up. We're getting in full gear for the NFL draft. We had some technical difficulties. We did a 2-round draft before. Somehow, when Tyler was uploading it, the audio got corrupted. So we're going to revisit that soon and prepare in preparation for the actual NFL draft. We're going to do some mock fantasy drafts coming up. We've got a lot of content in the barrel, ready to go. We've canned a lot of stuff. Tyler's on me every day. So we've got a lot of content that's going to be dropping right around the NFL draft and the weeks leading up to off-season training. So definitely check out Mosaic Media, especially on the Instagram, where Tyler does an amazing job with all of his visual graphics.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jason. We'll
Thank
be
you,
seeing you
Jason.
again also next week for Evil
Yeah,
Dead Rises, right?
Yep, I'm back in 1 week.
oh, Jason's not going to miss that gore fest.
Oh no, I'm here for it. I'm even dragging the wife and the kid.
Good luck.
All right, see you guys.
Have a good night, man. All right. And with that,
We're in the money. We're in the money.
all right, let me enlarge this a little bit so we can actually see it.
So, to the surprise of no one, your number one movie of the weekend, in its second week in a row, the Super Mario Brothers movie, with a really strong hold. That thing dropped only 36%. It was projected to be 40 if it was less than that even.
Yeah, there's no question. This thing is holding on to the number one spot till Guardians of the Galaxy comes out.
Oh yeah, it's making all the money. At the moment, I believe it's worldwide is north of 700 million. This thing's probably going to be our first $1 billion picture of the year. And you know what? All power to it. It is a perfectly acceptable, family-friendly pop. I have my issues with the movie. You can listen to our review of it if you want those in detail, but more power to it. We have our surprise. Like I think most of us in the chat, like if you'd asked us how Renfield and this movie would have done, we would have swapped their positions. But coming in at
Yeah, I
number
don't
2,
think anyone saw The Pope's Exorcist doing as well as it did.
Russell Crowe has more box office cachet left than I think we gave him credit for. So you know
Again,
what?
I
Good for
thought
him.
Russell Crowe shot what little cachet he had left in the film that, as I've mentioned, we will never speak of again.
You know, for as much as that version of The Mummy sucked and bombed really, really hard, no one associated with it really seemed to suffer for it. Like Tom Cruise is still Tom Cruise, and Russell Crowe is still Russell Crowe. So
Even though his version of Jekyll and Hyde, unfortunately, okay, it killed me because when I saw that he was playing Jekyll, it didn't say if he was going to transform into Hyde in the movie. I just saw he was announced as Dr. Jekyll. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I think that could be good. And then I saw his version of Jekyll and Hyde. I'm like, what was the line? I was like, This isn't Jekyll and Hyde. This is Russell Crowe before and after drinking.
Yeah, he just turns into a jerk.
Yeah, I was just like, seriously, you guys could have done better for this.
It was a letdown among many in that particular movie.
Mhm.
But The Pope's Exorcist has opened strong at number 2. It pulled in $9 million and change. Pretty solid win there for an opening weekend. I don't know if it's going to full on be profitable. I don't know. Let me check the budget on that actually real fast just for the
Yeah.
sake.
Again,
of
also
conversation.
surprising because Rotten Tomatoes has got it at around, last I checked, 44%. It's not getting that glamorous reviews.
Oh, no. This movie's already good. Its budget was only $18 million. So the fact that it's worldwide at the moment pulled in 37 and change. The Pope's Exorcist is doing pretty. They maximized a small budget, so you know what? Kudos. Yeah, that seems to be. Here's the thing about The Pope's Exorcist. There have been a lot of really, really, really bad Exorcist movies dealing with exorcisms. In fact, Mark and I had to get out our pickaxe and shovels and just pray for the devil not too long ago. Wherein we also talked about why exorcism movies are so hard to get right, not the least of which being that a colleague of mine at 411 Mania, Joseph Lee, who's he's deep into horror, mentioned that there's 2 different ways to kind of blow up a genre. One of which is to do it so well that nothing else can touch it, and the other is to be so good a parody that the original genre can't exist anymore. And The Exorcist, it's not parody, but it debuted the genre and the subgenre and did it so well that nothing else has come close to it. And that's a long shadow to try and deal with. So, and the fact that The Pope's Exorcist is better than, I would say, the majority of movies with exorcist in its name. It's better than The Rite, which I think it's kind of a bad rap because I like what Anthony Hopkins does with that performance, but it's better than Pray for the Devil. It's better than The Last Exorcism. It's better than The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Any of that kind of stuff. This is better than that, and I think you just need a discerning eye for horror to pick it up. But I think that's what a lot of the horror junkies are actually kind of leaning into is, oh, this is not the dumbest exorcist movie in the world. It's kind of fun. It's appropriately made and budgeted, and Russell Crowe's still kind of cool. So, shoot horror movies for a decent budget, profit. Not that complicated an equation.
Very true.
So dropping from number 2 to number 3, we have John Wick Chapter 4, which is still the most successful entry into that franchise. Its domestic gross right now is 160 million. Worldwide, it's 300-400 million, somewhere in that range. I forget exactly. We'll get to that in a minute. But John Wick Chapter 4 continues to do what it's doing. It's going to be successful. Renfield, unfortunately for it, opened with only $8 million at number 4, and against a budget of, what was it, $65 million? That ain't looking too good for this project, unfortunately. Dropping from 3 to 5, we have Air, which Amazon grossly overpaid for their distribution rights to.
Again, we've talked about this for the last, 2 weeks?
Well, when you throw $150 million at this, to be the ones to kind of distribute it, yeah, that's not the best decision. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves drops from 4 to 6. Unfortunately, again, that movie kind of ran into the Super Mario Brothers movie and has, again, it's kind of made what it's going to make at this point, but
still very profitable.
I'm not
possibly looking at a sequel.
I'll have to double check the budget on that one, but they will certainly look at a sequel, I imagine.
Speaking of which, I mentioned this in the chat. How have we not heard yet about the Super Mario Brothers sequel and or spinoff? You would think by now someone would have announced that.
I imagine there's some discussion going on between Illumination and Nintendo. Like there's some discussion going on before they can announce anything in particular, would be my guess.
Luigi's Mansion.
I would be down.
Yeah, we talked about this with last week's review about what our predictions are for the sequel, whether it was going to be Luigi's Mansion, the Koopa Kids, Wario and Daisy, or if we were going to get the Donkey Kong spin-off with the DK and the Kongs going up against King K. Rool.
Just recast Donkey Kong. That's all I ask.
And we've been over that in your hatred of Seth Rogen's performance again.
I don't know anyone who said anything good about Seth Rogen's performance as Donkey Kong here.
Hey, I glorified that movie, and even I threw him and Fred Armisen under the bus. What was
Right
the joke
under
I
it.
said? It's like the voice directors were too busy making sure that Chris Pratt and Charlie Day sounded good to pay any attention to those two.
Debuting at number 7, we have our anime introduction for the week or so. Suzumi debuted at again number 7 with 5 million, also bombing. At number 8, we have Mafia Mama with $2 million. That thing that blew up on the launch pad there. Scream 6 drops from 5 to 9. That's a hefty drop, but again, a bunch of new movies. And rounding out the top 10, we have Nefarious debuting there. You good there, Alexis? Thank you. Creed 3 fell from 7 to 11. His Only Son from 6 to 12. Sweetwater debuted at 13. Beau is Afraid debuted. This is its limited release in only like 4 theaters at the moment. But it's
getting pretty good reviews, as any Ari Aster film will.
I've heard mixed. Like, if I can find it in decent proximity, I will look it up. But I might wait for that one to stream. But yeah, that's the Joaquin Phoenix vehicle, which again seems to be getting pretty decent reviews. Continuing our discussion of bombs, Shazam! Fury of the Gods fell from 8 all the way to 15. That thing it's now made every bit of money it's going to make. Champions fell from 12 to 16. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish actually rose a spot from 18 to 17. How to Blow Up a Pipeline got released in more theaters, so it bumped up from 21 to 18. Avatar: The Way of Water sits at number 19. And rounding out the top 20, we have 65. Bomb. Just boom.
As we said before, if you can't find a way to make dinosaurs interesting, you have failed.
Okay. You're only on domestic at the moment, Alexis. I need you to switch to worldwide.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. Okay, so worldwide, we shamed them into fixing this last week. For those of you not aware, the Super Mario Brothers movie was initially erroneously listed as having released in 2022 instead of 2023. So
Someone
we had to
just entered in a wrong number on the code.
But we shamed them into fixing it. I will take full credit. We will take full credit for that over here. So you're welcome. The watchdogs of IMDb and Box Office Mojo over here.
Because it's so certain they pay attention to us.
They might. They're petty people over there. But number 1 with a frickin' bullet, the Super Mario Brothers movie worldwide take of $710 million. $1 billion seems very, very possible. It's got a pretty even split between domestic and foreign. It's released everywhere.
It's one of the few movies that's not getting banned in any other countries.
Amazing what happens when you try not to poke the various bears. Number 2, bomb. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, $474 million.
Sorry to Jonathan Majors. Did you hear the news? His
I know his agency dropped him.
Yeah.
So
sorry, dude. You finally just your name is on everybody's lips, and then you do something stupid.
Oh, or you surround yourself with people who try to take advantage of it. Again, we don't know the veracity of the allegations against him, but you know what's? I heard a decent enough line about that, actually. You know, you can gamble and beat the house 99 times out of 100, believe it or not, but that one time you lose wipes everything you won out. So be careful who you have around you, because you can be right 99 times out of 100, but it just takes one person to utterly ruin you.
Like I said, it's just too bad. After seeing him really rise up in the recent movies, his role, we agreed when we reviewed Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania that his role as Kang was the one glimmer of hope in that entire clusterfuck of a movie.
It
You
really
guys talked
was.
about how good he was in Creed 3. We
I
talked
didn't,
about how
but-
much we loved him in Loki and Lovecraft Country. So it's like, again, we don't know the allegations, and regardless of them, it is always a little painful to see somebody topple that hard right as they get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, Marvel is currently denying that there have been talks about recasting Kang, but I think they're just waiting to see. Again, they're waiting to see, like a lot of us are, how much truth there is to the accusations against him. Because if they're spurious, he'll be fine. If there's something to him, well, probably not. Anyway.
From what I've heard, his role in Loki has already been filmed, edited, and everything. So unless they really want to pull all the money out with a Kevin Spacey move, chances are pretty good that we're going to still see him in Loki season 2.
At least that far. So number 3, John Wick Chapter 4, 350 million. Creed 3, 271 million. Scream 6, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Shazam, 132 million worldwide. Ouch.
And that's just going to go lower and lower and lower.
Pathan at number 8. Chebby, My Fluffy Friend, the exclusively Russian movie, at number 9 with 86 million. Cocaine Bear, number 10. Could not even beat the exclusively Russian film Chebby, My Fluffy Friend. I have to do it because it's now just the meme. At number 11, we have the 25th anniversary of Titanic. Here's all the movies not doing well as a 25-year-old re-release.
Fuck you, James Cameron.
Tragic Mike's Last Dance, the newest Demon Slayer movie, 65, Air, Knock at the Cabin, Plane, Jesus Revolution, Mummies, Missing, Asterisk and Obelix, The Middle Kingdom, 80 for Brady, Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, The Pope's Exorcist debuts at number 24. And what's the last one I want to laugh at? Scroll down just a little bit more. Find something funny.
Well, there's Renfield at number 40.
Okay, let's laugh at Renfield, unfortunately. Here's Renfield, debuting at number 40 with $11 million worldwide. Oh, Renfield, we hardly knew thee.
I just want to point this out. We just got a text from Jason. His wife, apparently, I don't know if she was listening to our little discussion about the Universal monster movies we want to make, or if he told her, but apparently she just pitched him Robert Downey Jr. as a Jekyll and Hyde, and I'm going to assume that's Benedict Cumberbatch, because he wrote Cumberbund, as a new Phantom.
If you wanted to do... I got to think about who I'd want to do Phantom.
I'm assuming we're talking classic Lon Chaney Phantom, not Andrew Lloyd Webber Phantom.
Either or.
Originally, go back. I'd do Hugh Jackman as Eric the Phantom, to be honest.
If he'd gray out his hair, yes.
Well, I mean, he's old enough because again, the Phantom's supposed to be in his 50s.
Yeah,
60s.
again, when he's got to stop coloring his hair, but let the silver show through at the temples and whatnot, and really kind of sell the age difference. But yeah, Hugh Jackman could absolutely. That's another guy, man. He could be that kind of menacing, but you can also play off some of the weaknesses of the Phantom because he's just a guy at the end of the day. And Jackman being, an average-sized person could work in that favor as well.
And of course, if you got Jackman, you sure as hell better go ahead and do the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical.
Nah.
No.
What? I love Jackman singing.
No. I love Jackman singing too,
but you cast him as the Phantom to troll everyone and have him not sing. This is how you do this. Then you have him record all the Phantom songs and you release them as an extra on the you put it out there, but you don't put it in the movie.
Yeah.
All right, shall we go ahead and move on to the critical review?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right. Right now, 58% tomato meter with an 80% audience score. Critics' consensus.
Right.
Although it fails to take full advantage of its committed stars and killer premise, Renfield's batty horror comedy blend sinks in just enough to leave an impression.
More or less accurate.
All right, and let's go scroll down and see if we can find some of our favorite people to make fun of, shall we?
Yeah, scroll back up.
Oh, I was just...
I know you found it. Okay.
Okay, let's see here. Keith Garlington of Keith in the Movies. Even the inflappable Nick Cage can't ham enough to save this movie from its many self-inflicted wounds.
That's a little harsh. Like the movie is called Renfield, not Dracula.
Right.
Rex Reed from The Observer, top critic.
Best of the best.
This sure fight? Sure. I don't think I've ever seen that word written before. Sure fight of loud, obnoxious, violent junk audaciously okay, put the fucking thesaurus down. Audaciously claims to call itself a vampire farce, but there isn't a genuine shred of originality anywhere in sight, and it's as witty as an ambulance with a flat tire.
Much as I appreciate that last little bit, I might have to steal that. I might have steal that as a negative, like as much as a whatever's an ambulance with a flat tire. And this is a guy trying desperately to justify his own position. You're deliberately drawing out your review here, and you're throwing adjectives just because you can. More importantly, I don't entirely know that you understand the value of farce. Like, farce isn't necessarily meant to be original. It's meant to be a play off of existing stuff. So it seems like a weird bit of critique to throw it at that it's a farce with no originality. Like, it's like saying Austin Powers was aping James Bond. Like, of course it was. That's kind of the point.
Wow, listen to this. Rory Dodery from Flicks. Just Flicks. While on the surface, nothing in Renfield is worthy of abject hatred, its clumsy bloatedness inspires a certain disillusionment in Hollywood comedies. Twice this year, we've been promised giddy fun and been let down by pure, unimaginative laziness.
Okay, two things. Calling this a bloated film is just inaccurate. Like, it's 93 minutes. This is one of the tighter movies we've talked about in a long time. So it's not bloated. There is something to be said, though, for the other point that between this and Cocaine Bear, like, there was some false advertisement going on here. Like, we talked about with Cocaine Bear as well as this one. Like, lean more into this, please. Like, you're actually too restrained. So I think there's a semblance of a point there to be made, and I don't disagree with that. But it's a little bit unfair to fully criticize this movie for Cocaine Bear's failings that are in a similar vein.
Zan Brooks from The Observer. Garlic bulbs at the ready for Chris McKay's horror comedy, a cynical side hustle of a picture. Come to drain the extremities of the Bram Stoker estate and install a lowly pretender as king.
You're aware Dracula's in the public domain, right? This has nothing to do with the Stoker estate. Like, you'd think...
Nosferatu called. It wants its argument back.
I know. Like, at least you could have made the claim there.
I like this. David Lynch from KENS5. That Cage wins the movie might not be entirely surprising, but Renfield might leave you wondering if you haven't been secretly rooting for his Dracula all along, too.
You know, I wouldn't have hated his Dracula winning. I'm just going to throw it out there.
I was hoping for that, honestly.
All right. Oh, Robert, look who I found.
Oh, you found Kevin Carr. Good for you. He's not hard. He's hard to miss. He's fat.
Absurd and silly, this bloody action flick has some fun performances and memorable moments. Wow, that is about as generic as it gets.
If I might steal your response to reviews like this, Alexis, and I can see Russia from my house.
You have supervision, number one.
No, I'm going to call that a tick bird review right there.
It's up there. Like, he's hoping to get. That's the kind of review that half hopes parts of it will be put around ellipses to be on the DVD cover.
Like I said, tick birds. Okay, here's someone I follow, Jeremy Johns. The movie started out amazing, but as it kept going, I felt the momentum just got compromised with this other movie within the movie that I just didn't care about.
That's similar to some of the complaints we had about pacing and editing, so not unfair.
I have heard some complaints. People felt like the story with Awkwafina as the cop was a little too mashed in to this, and they felt like it was almost like two different movies that had been combined into one.
I mean, we raised that point, so
Yeah.
there's something to it. There's a lack of integration.
All right, let's see if we can find anyone else that we like to make fun of.
Let's see. Oh,
Okay,
hello, Jeff.
I was gonna say, this is weird though. Eric Martin from Rogers TV. It's a splat where it's Hoult cannot shake Cage's killer performance as Dracula continues to cast his ominous shadow over Renfield.
Okay.
I think they got the wrong sentence for your review here, dude.
I get what he's saying there. That's a very odd pull, and it's a splat because it's a C, and I believe you need at least a B to technically. Again, like, it's weird. They don't always get that right.
Yeah. All right. Yes, Mr. Jeffrey Harris, 411 Mania. The concept and setup are solid. Hoult and Cage's chemistry and scenes together are good, but the movie plays in a hacked up manner, and superior material appears cut from the runtime.
He's probably not wrong there. I wonder what got left on the cutting room floor of this is a general kind of question.
Again, I'm hoping for a director's cut. Side note, I forgot to bring this up. This is actually not the first time Hoult and Cage have been together. Hoult played Cage's son in The Weatherman.
I have not seen that in way too long, but wow.
So he's not wrong. They do have good chemistry there. Hell, Nicholas Hoult has admitted Nicolas Cage is one of his acting icons, someone he really looks up to.
Yeah, I could have used a lot. This movie genuinely could have used more Renfield and Dracula interaction, like 100%. Ooh, wait. Let's go with Alison Willmore there.
Alison Willmore from the New York Magazine / Vulture top critic. Renfield has maybe a comedy sketch's worth of ideas to stretch over a feature-length runtime.
Yeah, see, no. I've seen plenty of movies that were like SNL sketches stretched to full-length feature films. This isn't one of those. That's a real bad read on the material.
James Vernier of the Boston Herald. As far as vampire spoofs go, Renfield sucks. The weak screenplay is a stake in the heart. Okay, dude, even Zachary and Evan are giving you the finger on those puns.
I might have forgiven you Renfield sucks. I might have. But describe it, but no, you stretch that way too far, and your attempt at self-awareness over your bad puns makes it even worse.
Let's see if we can find one or two more of our favorite people to make fun of.
Who do we get here?
Let's see here. We make fun of Peter Travers. I can't remember if we make fun of Peter Travers. Okay.
We can start now.
Peter Travers, ABC News. Before this Fright Fest chokes on its own relentlessly repetitive blood splatter, Nicolas Cage proves fiercely funny as a modern-age Dracula whose malignant narcissism sends his errand boy Renfield and ace Nicholas Hoult into therapy for codependency.
Okay, so all you did was recap that's the back of the movie synopsis. Like, that's all you did here was synopsize the movie.
And complain that you didn't like all the blood.
Which actually we needed more of.
It's like needed more blood. It's an R-rated vampire movie. What were you expecting?
Who knows?
Oh, Den of Geek. We've made fun of them before. David Crow, Den of Geek. The movie is a series of disoriented lunges between tones and genres that might only make sense as someone in the creative process is still intent on making something like the Dark Universe a thing. We don't talk about that.
If you had trouble following this, I question whether or not you should be reviewing films. Like, this was not a hard movie to follow.
There's a lot of people here complaining about the blood and gore in this thing.
I know.
Dracula's movie, guys. What do you expect?
I can't wait for next week when all these people are whining about Evil Dead Rises.
Yeah, no kid. Oh, there she is. The bane of our existence, Robert.
She is up there.
This Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer, the Halloween version of Universal's Violent Night. Cheap, gory, and fun. Nicolas Cage is the main reason to see Renfield. He does a fantastic job, not a must-see in theaters, but certainly a good addition to anyone's Halloween movie collection. Son of a bitch, she's not wrong.
No, she's not wrong here. I question whether or not you would consider this the Halloween version of Violent Night, though.
I
It's
felt
not
that
really
going in, but not by the end.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I got you on that.
All right. You know what? I think Grace Randolph is where we're going to end things with that tonight.
That's fair.
Yeah, Dorian, if you missed it, when we discussed Super Mario Brothers movie, Miss Randolph decided to go full supernova on the movie and called it one of the worst movies she's ever seen. To which we're all sitting here going, really, honey? We've seen the crap you've reviewed.
I know you watched Morbius, lady. You can't sit me there with a straight face and tell me that's worse than the Super Mario Brothers movie.
I just love all the people who said it's the worst thing Illumination has churned out. I'm like, this is the studio that gave us the Lorax and the Grinch. Okay?
There's not much wrong with the Grinch. The Lorax has problems, but...
Ugh, sorry. I cannot stand Illumination's version of the Grinch. I hated it. And I love Benedict Cumberbatch. And I was like, why did you tell him to do an American accent? You could have had
That
him
was an odd
channeling
choice.
Boris Karloff, because Benedict Cumberbatch is one of the greatest, creepiest voices of all time. Why did you tell him not to use his natural accent?
No, again, I'm not saying there weren't odd decisions made, but yeah, that's not even close to the worst thing Illumination has done. Like, it's just, sorry. Much as I liked Minions 2, Minions 2 kind of is not as good as Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, it's like, sorry, guy. Again, it's like we can disagree on the Grinch, but I think we're all in agreement that the worst thing Illumination has churned out is the Lorax.
Probably, which is also kind of a shame because there's some really good elements to it. Like Danny DeVito voicing the Lorax was a stroke of genius casting.
Agreed.
The How Bad Can I Be song I actually kind of dig. Though I prefer the cut version. If you're not aware, they filmed a different version of that song that you can find that is actually a little bit creepier.
No, I agree. That song has the satire that we were desperately looking for, with something about, the approach of the Thneed in Thneedville.
The Lorax falls apart with all the stuff that isn't in the past dealing with the Onceler. I think that's really where it falls down.
I still remember reviewing it, and I actually wrote in the review, it's like, I'm sorry, did somebody from Operation Wall Street take over the script writing for this?
You're not entirely wrong if you look at the behind-the-scenes stuff for that movie, actually.
All right. I think we have discussed Renfield enough, and we have discussed our hatred of Grace Randolph enough. I think it's time to go ahead and move into our plugs. Mr. Price, as our repeating guest and horror aficionado, would you care to tell us where we could find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Instagram, or on Instagram at Pricey Pictures, Facebook, Dorian Price. We're working on a lot of stuff, got a lot of commercials that are in the pipe at the moment. Currently working on a music video, and we have our short film that will be hopefully being viewed at CryptoCon in July, called Heart Shaped Box. So we're hoping to hear back very soon about if we got accepted to that. And it's also going to several other festivals, so we'll be able to hear more on that here soon. And with any luck, if I haven't screwed everything up today, I might be back with y'all next weekend, or next weekend, wow. Next week for Evil Dead Rises, because the Evil Dead series is one of my favorites. So really fun to talk about that if I get the chance. Plug.
All right. When are we getting the film that I'm working with you on into film festivals?
As soon as it's done.
Yeah, no kidding.
As soon as we can get everybody together in one place at one time.
Yeah,
Or
good
something
luck
gets
with that. Robert, I'll go and tell you, trying to get this film crew together is harder than trying to get 10 adults to play D&D.
Yeah, I imagine.
All right, Mr. Winfree, go ahead and tell us where we can find you.
All right. If you're interested in my thoughts on things other than film, I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast on the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. That is recorded late Sunday evening. So Monday, if you're on your drive to work and you need something to keep you company, you can listen to me talk about MMA and other combat sports related things. So tune in for that. Wherever you're listening to this, you can find me over there, I'm fairly sure. I also cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling for 411mania.com, AEW's Dark Elevation on Monday, WWE SmackDown on Friday, and UFC events on Saturdays. So this Saturday is UFC on ESPN Plus 80. 80. Big number. If you want a full preview of that event, again, the Ground and Pound show is where I will break it down. I have a review also of last week's UFC on ESPN 44, which turned out to be a pretty solid card, actually. So good night of fights. I'm not going to complain too much about that. So that's where you can find me. Next week, we will be back here for Evil Dead Rise, and looking forward to that one. I have a deep appreciation for the splat stick in general, and for the as one of the few people in the theater when I went to see, who knew what to expect when I went to see the Evil Dead remake, I knew what I was getting into. I wasn't getting Bruce Campbell's groovy and craziness. I knew I was getting straight horror, and there were a lot of people who didn't. And I had a good time with that film because I don't mind you trying to gross me out with horror. It's fun. So looking forward to seeing what happens with the continuation of that iteration of the Evil Dead universe. So we'll be back here next week for that. Alexis?
All right. Well, I actually will not be joining you guys for Evil Dead Rises. Partially because I've already done 3 movies this month and I've hit my limit, but also because next week I will be hosting TV Party Tonight discussing the end of season 3 of The Mandalorian. We've already got a chat going up where I have asked everyone who's joining us to throw in their predictions of what they think is going to happen in the final episode. If you are not tuning in live, this is currently being recorded about 2 hours before Mandalorian season finale premieres. So looking forward to that and get to reveal who was right, who was wrong, and who was just casting the widest freaking net in the history of mankind because they just wanted to be right no matter what. Looking at you, Andrew. Other than
He
that,
threw a lot of stuff out there.
you did. We love you, Andrew. I do love you, man. So looking forward to that. I will also be back to host TV Party Tonight where we look at Muppet Mayhem. This is the latest introduction or latest version of the Muppets that we're going to see on Disney Plus. All 10 episodes are dropping on May 10th, so we will be reviewing shortly after that. Gonna have a lot of fun. Zachary Strobel will be coming back with that one, along with Mr. Radulich, and Mr. Radulich is bringing on a guest, gentleman whose name is John. I didn't get his full name, but apparently he actually tracked Mark down and said, "Are you viewing this?" Yes. Can I be on it? Sure. So.
That's usually how Mark goes. If you want to be on something, just ask him. He'll probably say yes.
Yeah, pretty much. So looking forward to always having someone new to pick their brain and see what they have to contribute. That'll be a lot of fun. And as for my plugs that actually pay my bills, because Mark doesn't pay us.
When we start making money, we'll get paid.
That's the way it works.
Well, no, that's the way it should work. I've made sure that everyone knows as soon as we're profitable, we start getting paid. But until then.
All right. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We're getting ready to head out to Indiana Comic-Con. We're going to be doing that the first weekend in May. This is our first time working with that one. We've done the Indie PopCon. That was a previous show that used to be out there. So this is our first time back in Indianapolis in a while. Please, God, let me find a decent parking space. That is all that I ask.
You're asking a lot of Indianapolis.
Yeah, no kidding. That city is worse only compared to Vegas and New York. Parking in that city is a nightmare, and they charge a fortune in every stinking garage. It's crazy. After that, we're going to be at NakaCon here in, not Kansas City per se, but Overland Park, Kansas. We just got off the waiting list for that one. I am so excited because I love that show, and I was so disappointed that we didn't get in originally. So, yay, can't wait to be there. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. That is Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. So for myself, for Mr. Price, for Mr. Winfree, be well, behave, be safe.